Okay, here we go. Let's do it.
My team is currently hiking in the mountains of northern Colombia. It is hot, it is humid, and we are miles from civilization. We got here the same way those before us did, by being obsessed with legends. And no legend has sowed more destruction than El Dorado. In the 16th century, Spanish conquistadors mounted expeditions to the New World in search of this fabled city of gold. Their campaigns unleashed suffering and death, and their thirst for treasure drove the extinction of entire civilizations. But where did the story begin? And could there really be gold and lost cities out there to be found? I followed the trail of conquistador Gonzalo Jimenez de Quesada to Lake Guatavita in Colombia.
Welcome to El Dorado.
Oh my God.
It was here that the indigenous Muisca people anointed their new chief by covering him in gold and depositing offerings in the lake. In time, the story of the Golden Man, El Hombre Dorado, mutated into the legend of a golden city, El Dorado.
Imagine hearing stories of people covering themselves in gold. They must be so dripping in gold that they can afford to bathe in it almost. Their imaginations must have gone wild.
Yeah.
At a Muisca burial site, we discovered real treasures that the Spanish never found.
It's gold.
Yeah, it's a piece of gold.
Unbelievable, look at this.
But the El Dorado myth is about more than just treasure. It's about an entire lost city. When the Spanish arrived on Colombia's Caribbean coast, they encountered the gold-adorned Tairona people, who retreated to strongholds deep in the mountains. For the next 400 years, outsiders were unable to reach these mysterious cities. Then, in the 1970s, looters discovered a massive Tairona settlement deep in the jungle, which they named Ciudad Perdida, or the Lost City. Today, archaeologists at the site are using cutting-edge scanning technology to reveal something extraordinary. There may be more lost cities and priceless treasures even deeper in the interior. My mission? Reach the team at Ciudad Perdida to find a real El Dorado. We're carrying all of our filming equipment, not to mention a week's worth of food and supplies 20 miles up a mountain to Ciudad Perdida.
It's beautiful here.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yes, which usually means it's also dangerous.
Yeah.
What should I be worried about in here?
We have jaguars.
Uh-huh.
We have 80 different kinds of spiders.
80, okay.
80.
That I can handle. Let's talk snakes.
We have some deadly snakes here.
What do you have?
The pop rocks.
And we call that the fertilance.
Okay.
That's very dangerous.
Yeah.
I have a little experience with them.
Packing enough venom in a single bite to kill a man 6 times over, a fertilance nearly punched my ticket in the jungles of Guatemala.
John, snake! Snake right by you.
Where? Snake! Up, snake!
And in this part of Colombia, it's responsible for nearly 70% of all snake bites. Perfect.
All right, so jaguars, spiders, snakes, plants, pretty much the whole jungle's trying to kill us.
Yes.
At least we'll die in a
Like
beautiful
that.
place, though.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, come on.
We need to hike more than 6 miles uphill to reach camp tonight. Day 2 is another 8-mile trek into the mountains. And day 3 will bring us the final leg to meet the archaeologists at Ciudad Perdida. As the afternoon wears on, the sky opens up. Not surprising considering this area sees more than 157 inches of rain a year.
Brian and Diego! Real slippy, be careful. I don't want to lose that camera. There's mud, and then there's whatever this is.
The trail turns into a giant slip and slide, and as my tech supervisor Diego learns, it's not the fun kind.
You okay?
Yeah, good.
We slog on. Still a few miles out from tonight's camp, our pace slows to a crawl. And when the sun sets, our situation goes from uncomfortable to unviewable.
All right, well, we have lost the light. The rain has stopped momentarily, and we are trying to get ourselves to camp. You really don't want to be hiking here after dark. It's a pretty dangerous place to be.
Exhausted and caked in mud, we stumble on for another mile, desperately hoping to find our campsite.
I see lights. Here we go, guys. Okay, home sweet home.
We're here, guys.
Look at this.
Salvation. This simple shelter, built for the trek to the lost city, may not look like much, but after today, it feels like El Dorado.
Great day, everybody. Let's do it all again tomorrow. Wonder what time the generator goes out. Good night. Oh, good morning. I had this horrible dream that we were in a... Oh, no, it's all real. Okay, here we go.
Today, we need to log 8 miles to reach camp, but our spirit, and everything else, is a bit dampened.
One of the real challenges up here is that everything is wet. It is so humid, it's raining, it's misty, you're sweating, and then no matter what you do, even if you hang your clothes up, they end up like this. Still soaked. Okay.
We make our first and easiest river crossing, marching through verdant pastures as we approach the heart of the jungle. After hours of hiking in swirling heat and humidity, we encounter something I never expected to see out here: people. Passing us on the ridge is an indigenous family from a culture known as the Kogi, descendants of the Tairona.
Hola. Hola.
Machete's bigger than the kid.
Amazing.
A short walk later, we arrive at their village, where the Kogi live much as the Tairona did. No machines, no electricity, no written language. Isolation has protected Kogi culture, which, despite appearances, is actually incredibly advanced. After all, they're living in harmony with one of the most punishing environments on Earth, a place where European invaders, for all their might, simply couldn't cut it. The knowledge and grand construction of their ancestors, the Tairona, was a secret to the outside world, their own private El Dorado, until looters chanced upon the ruins.
Sergio,
Yes, Josh.
so explain this to me. Looters found this lost city in 75.
These looters, they were farmers, and they used to go out in the mountains for hunting.
Right, these weren't like career criminals, they were local guys.
Yes, they were just local people.
Got it. And what did they find up here?
One of these guys was hunting, and he saw stone steps.
And that was it, they knew something
And
was here.
Yes.
Wow.
That's it.
And so soon after that, gold starts showing up on the black market.
Yeah.
The farmers unearthed thousands of Tairona offerings left in burial pits at Ciudad Perdida. Some of this stunning jewelry is on display at the Museum of Gold in Bogota, but much of it vanished, lost to the illegal antiquities trade.
And how do archaeologists find this place?
The thing is that the looters, they started to fighting and killing each other over the gold.
Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Have you
Yes.
ever seen that movie?
No, I
Humphrey Bogart, great movie. Similar story.
Greed brought out the worst in the conquistadors and in these farmers. Fortunately, one of them blew the whistle and led archaeologists to the ruins of a real-life El Dorado, allowing it to be studied and conserved. Nearly 40 years later, the team we're trying to reach believes that what's been found so far is just scratching the surface.
Okay, uphill,
That's the plan.
let's go.
Let's do it.
Okay, so Humphrey Bogart is this down on his luck prospector, right? He's in a bar, and this guy comes in, and he's got a map.
We forge on, mile after mile.
Hey, Brian. What? Have you ever seen Treasure of the Sierra Madre?
No.
As dusk approaches, we find our shelter and try to get some rest. We're back at it bright and early. Just 6 miles to go becomes my mantra. The trek is starting to feel like Groundhog Day. Oh look, another bridge. Only this one is more of a bridge to be.
Okay, Josh, here's where we cross.
Okay, All right, let's get wet. Come on.
Let's do it.
Yeah, that is not warm. Everybody's across? Okay, let's do it.
From here, there's nowhere to go but up. We climb higher and higher into the mountains until we finally reach the first traces of the lost city.
Josh, you
Yes.
see this?
Yes, stairs.
Yes, this is part of the lost city.
This was built by the Tirona.
This was built by the Tirona over 1,000 years ago.
Unbelievable. And look,
Yes.
it just goes up, up, up.
Yeah.
The entrance to Ciudad Perdida is a marvel. Exactly 1,200 steps engineered in dense jungle.
1, 2, 3, 4.
These stairs are the only way in or out of the lost city. The Spanish noted that Tirona warriors were incredibly fierce, using their tactical knowledge of the jungle to carry out lethal ambushes. By funneling invaders onto narrow staircases like this, the Tirona were able to repel attacks and keep the Spanish at bay.
261, 262, 263, 264, 265.
But we will persevere. Turns out every day was leg day for the Tirona.
$597, $598, $599, $600. Halfway, guys.
Can we stop? Thirsty.
I can't hear you. Keep walking, everybody.
Billy's gonna puke.
You're doing great. Everybody's doing great. We're gonna die.
We climb on, and the ancient stairmaster literally takes my breath away. But what we find at the top truly leaves me speechless. After 3 days and more than 20 miles uphill, we are among a small handful of people to reach one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the last century, the Lost City.
1,198, 1,199, 1,200. Oh, come on! Look at this! Woo!
What lies before us is a marvel of engineering. More than 169 stone terraces spanning 88 acres, all built on a 4,000-foot peak in the middle of a deeply inhospitable jungle. Completely overgrown when it was first discovered, archaeologist Santiago Giraldo and his team have been excavating this site for decades, living and working out of their own makeshift village near the ruins.
Oh man, so great to meet you.
All right, good meeting you too.
I love your office,
Beats a cubicle any time of day.
right? I got a lot of questions.
Go, fire away.
Let's start with this. When?
The place began to be built by what we think were sort of like pioneers coming into new farming areas around 650 AD. Spanish called them all Tirona, but we don't know what they called themselves.
Right. And when does this main section of the city get built?
This was built up sometime between 1100 and 1200 AD in a single push.
Okay. At its height, what do we think the population was here?
Anywhere between 2,000 and 3,000 people.
Just in this?
Just in this town. In the upper part of the basin, over 10,000 people. All this forest that you see wasn't here. So what you'd have seen would have been farmland and patches of forest.
Right. We see these big rings and these terraces. Would all of these had a structure on them?
Yeah, all of these had structures on them. The smaller rings are dwellings. The really large rings are community spaces, feasting areas, workshops, and what have you.
So kind of like the Kogi huts that I saw coming up,
Just a
but
bit.
bigger?
It's very similar architecture. It would have been bigger,
Yeah,
but a bit more sophisticated and polished.
got it.
The terraced platforms we see today are just the foundations of this vanished metropolis. Radiating out from the city center were hundreds of interconnected plazas stretching far into the jungle. Each plaza was dotted with round, thatched roof buildings, ranging in size from single-family dwellings to massive multi-storied town halls, all landscaped with tropical fruit trees and fed by irrigation channels. Now, after 2 decades spent exploring these ruins, Santiago is just starting to map its full extent.
That's extraordinary, you know, that we have this thriving civilization here building absolutely stunning things. And yet, I think to a lot of the world, Tirona isn't a name that they know.
When the Tirona culture built this mega city on a mountain, Europe was in the throes of the Dark Ages. The Maya were in decline, and the great Inca Empire didn't even exist. But because the Tairona didn't have a written language, most of what we know about them comes from their greatest enemy.
How do the Spanish talk about the Tairona in their chronicles?
They describe them as decked out in jewelry and finery. Like most everyone had gold nose pieces, gold ear spools. That was just daily use.
The Spanish must have really been intrigued by that. When we talk about El Dorado, this Spanish obsession with this idea that there's a golden city, is part of it fueled by places like this, spots that the Spanish could not easily get to?
It's always the idea that the indigenous folks are hiding something.
Sure,
but
right.
they're hiding it away.
Right.
Eager to get their hands on gold, the Spanish founded Santa Marta in 1525 and began raiding coastal Tairona settlements. But conquering this jungle citadel was too great a challenge.
This is far away from Santa Marta. Getting here would have been a good 8 to 10 days.
And when they did venture deeper into Tairona territory, the Spanish were turned back by the harsh jungle and fierce warriors.
And the Spanish had a really hard time with the Tairona. Poisoned arrows, big stones tumbling down staircases, taking people down.
This is not a place that you would want to attack.
If you've got the high position, you can defend almost every single foot of this space.
But despite never reaching Ciudad Perdida, the Spanish still sowed the seeds of its destruction.
Why does it collapse up here? Why does it all go away?
There were a number of epidemic cycles that were diseases brought in by the Spanish. So smallpox, influenza, typhoid fever, cholera, bubonic plague. And indigenous populations of the Americas had no immune response to them. 90% of the population dies. The Tairona ceased to exist as a sociocultural entity.
Right. So from that time period until the 1970s, nobody's up here?
No one's up here.
It is literally lost to time.
Yeah, absolutely.